and you can't look at a data visualization, but you can experience with the data sonification. And I recommend everyone just check it out and see if it's your thing, because I thought it was brilliant. I'm Bonnie, and I'm done talking.
Tim, you go first. Unless she can't talk, so I'll talk. So this is Bruce Buxton. I am Business Development Director at Critigen. We're a geospatial consultancy. Our special sauce we owe to we have in the world is integration and geo enablement. So I'm here from that perspective to talk about the business and commercial side of what it means to an organization to have GIS fully integrated into their business. And I love this topic, and I can't wait to talk about it. This is Bruce, and I'm done speaking.
Thanks, Bruce. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Tim. I'm from local government outside of Dallas-Fort Worth, Collin County. And I have some news to share. We just hired, and I'm delighted to say this, we just hired our newest application developer who was formerly one of our GIS interns. So it's always nice to hire those that you've trained all along. And so that kind of opens the door a little bit more to, for me to blend my app dev team with the GIS group, on the, just to kind of try a little something new, try broaden what our GIS group has to offer, because now we have an insider on the app dev side. And I'm done.
Well, thanks everyone for those introductions. And yeah, so I'm really excited. Bruce is, as the sales dude, who maybe that's making him sound more bro-y than he is. I'm super excited to get your perspective on this as the salesperson. And for me, I run a business. I'll say the sales part is something I super struggle with. And so I would love to, Bruce, have you kick off with talking a little bit about, you know, getting this buy-in for GIS, geospatial analysis, the spatial perspective, the edge, whatever we want to call it, the science of where.
Yeah, I like the idea of being a sales dude. That's not bad. That's not a bad thing. So so thanks for giving me the
Okay, as
floor.
long as you're not offended. I just don't want to like
No.
broify you.
Oh,
But
I like being broified a little bit. I'm a 58-year-old white guy, so broification is really helpful. So thank you.
great, great. Okay. Well,
All
I mean,
right.
it sort of goes against your moniker of being the gray beard if you're a
Yeah,
bro.
it's okay, but bros are okay, so that's all right. So anyway,
Oh, totally, totally. Bros are totally okay and are welcome in this space.
I do have a very passionate perspective on how to get buy-in with your geospatial. Whether that's your applications, your data, your platform, the services that you provide inside your organization, whatever that might be. And I think that I really do believe that one of the problems is that we focus way too much. When we're talking internally, we focus way too much on features. And we just get all wrapped up in the program can do this, the application can do this, we can provide you with this table, we can give you this map. And we focus so much on the features of what can be done that we forget that really people who are trying to incorporate technology into their businesses slash organizations slash enterprises, whatever it is, whether it's a government or a utility or a commercial business, whatever, they need to understand how their investment pays them back. And so this is one of my soapboxes. I'm just preparing a new video series on this for LinkedIn about just about return on investment. What does it mean? I feel like that in the space, in the geospatial space, we've done a really crappy job of articulating return on investment. And again, I think that stems from the idea that we're really excited about the technology itself and the features of the programs that we're using, that we don't take time to say, hey, there's more here than just whiz bang. There is return on investment. And so I feel like that if we spend more time understanding how, if a different part of your business or organization needs to invest in something that you can provide to them, then they need to understand how that's going to pay them back or save them money. One of the two things. Is it going to pay me or is it going to save me? Whether that's money or whether that's influence, power, whatever it is, figure out where it's going to pay them back, and how it's going to pay them back, and then be able to find a way to articulate that as the primary salvo in your message. You can go to the technology, you can go to the features and benefits later on, but if you start with, here's how this can pay you back, and here's why you should care, then I think we would have a much easier time of propagating GIS throughout the organizations. Does that hit a chord? Does that make sense to anybody on stage?
Oh my goodness, it totally does. And I definitely have very much struggled with sort of that, in terms of, you know, I I'm sorry, I'm not being very articulate in this moment, but yes, that's not always about the money, like you will save this many person hours, or like you'll be able to go into these new markets, but that it can also be some of that, you'll gain prestige or reputation, or you wouldn't be able to do these things. And I think that that's the core of being really persuasive, and that within the geo industry, I think there's been a really big move over the past few years for like younger, like earlier career GIS data people to really focus their skills on like data communication and developing a story. Right? That's what we were talking about last week. But that we haven't necessarily. I haven't seen a lot of people, and again, it can be more internal to an organization, really talking about um, developing those selling skills. And even if you're not in a sales role, like our sales dude, Bruce, everything you're doing is selling to try and say, like, geospatial or data analytics is like key to this organization, and like, let's expand the team, let's build my role. And that selling and like making yourself useful is really, really important. And I think one of those skills that can be really difficult to learn. So I'd love to get other people's perspectives on that.
I'm a uniquely, I'm a little different because I'm independent. I'm a consultant, and yeah, sometimes I have to rally the ships around an issue when we're looking at a big data project. But typically, what I've learned to do is I don't strip any of that out. I don't say, well, now we're going to learn storytelling, and now we're going to look at geospatial data, and now we're going to do some Python. I put it all together in one narrative story around an issue that I'm very passionate about. So people don't see the ingredients. They don't see the spices. They don't see everything that's gone in to make this one thing. They just, for the most part, just like what they see. They enjoyed the presentation, or, hey, how did you do that? And where did you get this data? And oh my God, how can I do this? And that's sort of how I like to talk about geospatial, and also how I like to quote unquote sell. I don't know what a bro is. I don't think I would like one if I met one. I mean, if it's someone who's really like, schmarmy and like, hey, little lady, buy this now and stick around for 20 minutes and you can get a free this or a free that. I don't like that. And I know Bruce isn't that. But I also see people who try to sell to me at least a dozen a day. They connect and then they're selling. They connect and then they're selling. And I'm like, what are you doing? Sometimes I stop and I say, what are you doing? You don't know me. You don't know my network. I invited you in. Now you're out. Because first, what I tell all my students or collaborators is, first, you have to be of service. You have to give it away for maybe years, through educating people, through sharing this, through sharing that, for being accessible. That's how you get credibility, not by saying, now we're only 19.99. You know what I mean? Like, I think people are forgetting that how we sell or how we create value has migrated in the last 10 years. It's not the same thing. It's not necessarily even point of service. It's more experiential. And I'm Bonnie, and I'm done talking.
Bonnie, 100%, I agree with you about sort of that. I guess it sort of gets down to the showing aspect of work. So both in terms of, what you said in terms of giving work away for free, which is one thing if you're operating a business, but then it's also sort of that challenge of if you're in a geospatial job of going the extra mile, um, and to begin to show like more of that power of what you can do, which again shows that value, right? So today there was something and somebody just wanted something on a map. Um, and it was like, sure, I can put that on a map, but that's not actually what you want. So I did, some spatial statistics and did a cluster and outlier analysis to actually be able to get them what they wanted, which, was I only knew how to do that because of my background. And so I think you're sort of spot on that demonstrating is really key, um, in that.
So Bonnie, let me respond that I think I don't want to use the term bro in a salesy kind of schmormy, like you said, way. That's not at all what I am. And I'm a no pitch sales guy, right? I don't want to pitch anybody on anything. What I want to do is I want to understand their challenges, and I want to help them understand how they can surmount their challenges, not necessarily pitch them anything at all. And so one of the things I heard you say, and I just want to focus on this, is you said, you put it all together and you don't want them to see all the spices and everything in it. You want them to see what the outcome is. And like my colleague that's down in the audience, Matt Sheehan, is fond of saying that, it's not about everything that gets you there. It's about the outcomes. And so when I'm talking about return on investment, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the outcomes. Talk to them about what what it looks like in the end and what this provides for you. How does this help you? They don't need to know necessarily, all of the buttons that get pushed. They just need to know how this helps them to overcome any challenges they have. So I'm sure that I missed a piece there, but I do like what you're saying, and I think that we're kind of saying the same thing. I like your emphasis on the story, because I think that to be able to demonstrate and to provide value effectively, we need to learn how to tell stories better. So this is Bruce, and I'm done speaking. I think Tim didn't get a chance to weigh in yet.
Well, that's all right. Let's go with Frank. Frank, you're up here on stage. What do you got to share?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Great to be here as always. I wanted to echo one of the things that Bonnie said, about getting your work out there for free and getting in front of folks. One of the things that one of my professors told me once that really resonated with me, is you got to learn to perfect your craft before you are asked to be paid for your craft. And I think that's really important. You got to put it out there and do some work for folks and let them see what you can do. To Juliana's point, they a lot of times clients ask for one thing, but they really want to see something else. And so you do got to go that extra mile and push a little further to kind of open their eyes to what is possible. And I think for me, another aspect of getting buy-in is helping organizations recognize not only the power of GIS, but how in my work I do a lot of training, and recognizing that if I train their staff to do some of these things, that they are going to be more empowered as an organization. Their staff is going to be more spatially aware of how to integrate that into their specific issue area. Because I always tell my clients, I can show you how to push the buttons, and I can tell you how to what my preference is in terms of where we will go, but your data better than anybody. The issues that you're trying to solve better than anybody. So for me as a consultant, there's only so much I can do. And I think that really resonates with clients, because they recognize that the more that their staff members have the power and the understanding of these products, the better they can be in the long term.
I love that, Frank, and I love your voice. You have such a nice timbre. I'm like, yeah, they have that insult they say to people. You got a face made for radio. So I don't mean that, but I mean you have a voice made for radio. And
Hey Bonnie, Frank is he really walks the walk.
oh,
Doesn't just
yeah,
talk the
no, I'm
talk.
familiar.
He's
I've
out there giving away stuff all the time. So kudos for you, Frank.
and I don't mean give it away too. I mean that's also sort of a misnomer, at least in my situation. I feel like I'm sharing. I think of it as sharing, and I'm going to give you 70 to 80%. And now if you need the rest, the other 30 or 20, well, then naturally you're just going to reach out to me and we're going to, like, work together. So my motto is, I'll share the resources, I'll show you where to go, here's some data. That's not enough for a lot of people. Well, those are my people then. I don't feel like I don't, if I felt like I was giving it away for free, I would probably be bitter about it. But I think I've shared this before. I've had a lot of driving and things I've had to do since I'm not flying. I got to drive everywhere to my meetings, and I've been listening to Henry David Thoreau, Walden Pond. And I mean, this was written back in the 1800s. And the truth bombs dropped in this book. If you are interested at all in rereading or reading it for the first time, he says something that I love. And this is germane to exactly what we're talking about. I think the quote is something like, rather than love, than money, than fame, give me truth. And that is exactly what people want. They may not know they want it, and they may not be able to receive it in that first iteration. I was kind of, and I'll wrap it up, I was kind of brought in a lot because I'm a brown woman in data. And for some reason, we're like a hot ticket now. So I was pulled into these conversations about poverty, and people thought I was on their side. And I would break from them a lot of times because I'm like, you're not defining poverty correctly. You're not talking about um, access in the right way, or, they were using the wrong words, the words that we all hear and we get triggered by, but they're not really the right conversations to be having. And that's what I feel like geospatial did for me, because now I can't have these high level conversations about, oh my goodness, I don't know why so many of this population have hypertension. Or what are we going to do? We have to get them insurance. No, we don't. And those of you in geospatial that dig deep in these issues, like Frank, will know exactly, how far upstream all of the inequities are accumulating that we don't talk about. I'll leave it there, Bonnie, and I'm done talking.
I have a government perspective. I'm fortunate that my customers are right here. I know exactly who my customers are, and they've always asked for the wrong thing. And I think what we talked about last week and what I'm hearing today is, if you sit down with them and truly understand, what it is that they want, because they don't know you're capable. Certainly in the geospatial space, what we're capable of doing, to even ask us to do it. So you have to provide a solution. And most of my conversations now have never been about GIS this or GIS that. I don't even mention GIS anymore. I just mention, what are you trying to do, and then we provide something. And I'll add something, kind of a throwback from Juliana, about a passion project. If you're in a position to do a project that you're not asked to do it and then share it. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. Is and I'll give you an example for us. What put us literally on the map in GIS here in Collin County was, we owned redistricting. We didn't wait to be asked to do it because they never would have asked. We just started doing it and showing it, and they were freaked out on how well it was being done. Better than it had ever had been done in the past. We started this back in 2000, but each year every 10 years we do it, and sometimes between, because we can. And no one would have known that unless we went down and showed and demonstrated what we're capable of doing. And I think that's the best way to get buy-in, is really demonstrate the cool things that can be done, and then let it go from there. And then now their idea is like, I didn't know you could do stuff like this, and then they start asking more challenging work that we all desire anyway. All right,
Uh, yeah, I think you're spot on. And one thing that I've been thinking a bit about is, sort of what Bonnie was talking about is, giving away the 70% or whatever, is that often, not all the times, but especially with spatial stuff, you can sometimes come to a pretty easy-ish solution, not all the time, right? Where you can put some stuff together, do some quick analysis, and begin, it's the idea of prototyping, of saying, hey, this is sort of like what we could do. Like, if you give me more time, like I could really come up with a better solution for you. And I think that sometimes people are so afraid to prototype or maybe to show it's not like a half-baked solution. It's just being like, okay, like this is sort of like within these constraints. And I'd say like to not be afraid to, put some of that out there. And so like in November is the 30-day map challenge, and I think I'm going to be doing a 30-day community map challenge in November that's focused on mapping your community. But one thing I know will like hold people back from doing the 30-day map challenge is, it's not going to be completely done, or it's not right. It's not going to be like their best analysis, as opposed to using it as a way to stretch that muscle and to see like what could be possible. So, but I would love to know. Hayabu, who's a planning fellow and GIS analyst. I would love to know what your thoughts are on this.
Hi, thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Hiabu. I recent graduate, this in 2020. I'm just sort of in the moment in my career where I am trying to hopefully sort of establish myself in a consultant business sort of way. Right now, it's very freelance, and I've taken on a few projects. I'm based out of New Jersey, so I've taken out a few projects in the tri-state. Some people in Philly, some people in Brooklyn, and I guess one of the dilemmas I'm having is sort of how you were saying before about you have to establish your brand first before you can start charging money. That's sort of what I'm doing now. I'm trying to build up a portfolio, not just for my day-to-day job, but freelancing as well. And I guess what I'm trying to see is, when is a good way to judge that cutoff time between transition from starting free to going to paid. Because right now I'm taking on a lot of projects, and I'm sort of starting to. I don't feel burnout yet, but it's on its way. So I guess I'm trying to figure out. There's not a specific timetable, right? But what are some of the factors when you can sort of establish yourself brand wise?
You're not working for free on all these projects, are you?
Well, no, I am, because I will say my training. Yeah, my
Ah,
training is not in GIS, so
don't
that's
give it away. I'm going to tell everybody that. Get paid. I have a cup that I have, and if I saw you in person, I'd give it to you. It's got a kind of a superlative on it that I use like a comma, but most people don't. But it says get blank paid. Don't give it away for free. Here's what you can do, and this is just my opinion, but I have a lot of them. You'll see. But what I do is when people approach me, is what is your budget? And they all say, no, put together a proposal. No, I'm not an admin. I'm going to tell me your budget, and I'll tell you what I can do for you, and we'll work together and find something that solves your problem. I don't care if they're going to give you $50. They're going to give you something. Don't do anything for free. You reach out to me privately, and we will talk. But please do not give anything, unless it's a bunch of nuns, and they're feeding children out of their own budgets. Don't give it away for free. I'm done talking.
That's well noted. Thank you, thank you. It's just it comes back to the sort of idea that to assert myself as someone who can charge. I guess you're saying that get in the mindset of that first before
I,
you consider
can,
action.
can I just weigh in on this too? I don't disagree with Bonnie. But I do think that there's a time in which you have to establish yourself by showing what you can do. And one of the great things we have at our disposal in our time is the internet, obviously, and social media. And so rather than giving away project work, you can give away solutions and knowledge online in a way that becomes your ticket to be able to sell services to other people. So I would suggest you dig into social media and how you can provide value to people on social media rather than going to someone and saying, let me do this project for free. You bring people into your capabilities and to your ability to help them by showing them online what's possible. I think Juliana does that really, really well. And I think that's something that I'm striving to do with the company I work for as well.
Exactly. It's called a blog.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
blog. It
yeah,
could be a
Start a
blog.
blog.
A blog, a webinar. It could be video, videos of any kind. But there's a lot of ways that you can demonstrate to someone that you're both likable and trustworthy, and someone that's technically astute, so that they can come to you and say, "Hey, I'd like this done. What do you charge?"
yeah. And I just to echo off of that, like there's definitely a need to build a portfolio to establish credibility. I think something that I struggled with. So I ran my business full time for a year, was impacted by COVID, and pivoted back into the workforce. Plan to pivot back out of the workforce and work for myself or work for a nonprofit in some variety. But I think that the thing that I would tell you, that like if I could go back to myself a year ago in terms of what I would say, it's to repurpose everything that you do multiple times. So not just to build a portfolio piece, but to make a short video about it, get a video testimonial. So there's something to be said about like working for a client and having like their accolades, but also perhaps solving some other problems. But it's figuring out ways that you can repurpose it and brand yourself, but that you're actually sharing that more widely. And what Bonnie said about a blog, like for some reason, a blog was just like very overwhelming to me for some reason. But I like posted a lot on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, like these are really just the same thing. I can sort of post the same thing just a little bit longer on a blog, and then there's SEO, but I can also send that to people. So I'd really encourage you to make sure that you are figuring out a way to share that knowledge, that right, the things that you're learning in that portfolio skill sets with other people.
No, most
But
definitely.
and I guess the last thing is, even though they're like clients of yours and you can treat them as such, there was something that was really empowering for me the first time that I was paid to speak. I was paid $100, not a ton of money, but that then meant that I was able to say, like, I'm a paid speaker. And so there is something to what Bonnie was saying about like it being, even if they can't pay you a lot, that there's something that's can be very rewarding, both to yourself but also in terms of building a brand, about like these were paying clients of mine, right? The other people don't have to know that they only pay you $20 or $100, but it's really powerful to say like they paid me something.
No,
Yeah, and
most,
when I spoke, whenever I spoke for in the beginning, when well, I don't really speak for free, but when I'm sure I have, what I would demand is a high quality audio and visual, recording of my presentation, because then I can use that. Think of the money you save from that. So think of things that if you're doing them, they'll have payout later. I just said blog because sometimes it takes you a while to know your voice. And when I used to be recorded, I had really annoying vocal tics that I wasn't aware of until I heard myself over and over. And I was like, all right, this has got to stop. So sometimes just writing lets you begin right away without having to figure out, how do I use this? How do I use that? It gives you something you can do. And before I knew it, I had been doing it maybe 5 or 6 years by now. So in my world, I just get offers. I don't get it. It's not like they're coming every day. Don't get me wrong. But people don't come and say, well, how much will you charge me for this? Because that's not how I don't sell dollars. I'm selling you an outcome, a value, something that is valued in your company. I know how to price that. And so does the person providing it for me. I just got a big contract with a medical college just to teach them about data, doing data better. And, I was not about to spend 2 days of my life line iteming it, figuring out what this would cost, what that would cost. I let them come back to me. And then from there, I know how to budget my time. And I'm sure I lose a lot of work because I don't have the patience for it. That's not what I do. And I keep everything very specialized to the one thing that I do and that I know I uniquely do well. And figure that out for yourself, and maybe on that one thing be non-negotiable. And then if you're stepping into something a little newer, like, well, gosh, I don't really know anything about, how to program this in JavaScript. I'm willing to figure it out and then maybe get a couple nickels for doing it. I'm Bonnie, and I'm done talking.
Yeah, I just want to jump in before somebody else does, but it's clear that your trial Yabu, your trial, your challenge is to be known, liked, and trusted. Known, liked, and trusted. It doesn't sound to me like you're really struggling to do the work. Like the work is fun, interesting, and you can do a good job. And so the place to be known, liked, and trusted in our time is on the internet. And I'll just challenge you to think: when's the last time you had a how-to question? How to fix my dishwasher, or how to get from here to there, that you didn't first go to YouTube and say, how do I do this? And so like a YouTube channel could be a really, really good way to showcase your expertise without giving away project work. This is Bruce, and I'm done speaking.
Let's. I got one quick question for Julianne, and then we're going to go to Stephen. About being a paid speaker, I got paid in long grain wild rice and a wool throw blanket. Could I say that I'm a paid speaker?
Yep.
Sure. I think so.
All right, Stephen. So
Yeah.
how are we getting buy-in, Stephen, for GIS? What's your perspective?
So I'm kind of in a weird position. As some of you know, I'm a retired captain from the New York City Fire Department, and I was the head of the GIS unit for the last 12 years of my career. So getting a buy-in from that perspective was very difficult. I'm starting to see a change in the public safety world. And what I mean by that is, in my role at the fire department, when you go to some of these chiefs and upper staff, start saying, oh, this is what I could do for you in GIS, and, I need money, I need servers, I need a database server, I need a web server, I need this, that, and the other thing. It's just very, very hard to get buy-in. These old timers were very much, well, what do I need that for? We need to put, the phrase is the wet stuff on the hot stuff. If I went to them and said I need $500,000 for a new fire engine, they'd write the check right there. But like I said, when you start talking about servers and software, they lose interest very quickly. So you really have to take a perspective of, how is this going to benefit you? Not just start talking technology. But like I said, you're starting to see a shift in that world. Even though I'm not in the world anymore. And what I mean by that is, it's the younger generation that's now coming up. These young kids are used to cell phones and mobile devices, and they may not know it, but they're, using maps, whether it be Google Maps or Apple Maps, and getting directions and getting information. And, they don't associate that with GIS, but the point is that younger generation is just used to this. And now that younger generation is starting to go through the ranks. They're becoming lieutenants and captains. There's even some that are chiefs nowadays. So it's starting to shift a little bit. My perspective now in the private industry again is just a little bit different because I'm not a salesperson. I'm a project manager. But I will say that, some of the clients that I've dealt with for some analysis work that I've had to done on errors in their data, I just find by talking to them, again, I'm not a salesperson, but I've made a few sales just, by talking to them what needs to be done, and, this is what you have to do. And then, of course, I get a lot of times they're not GIS people, they're IT administrators, especially in like a small rural county. And before you know it, they're saying, "Hey, we want to hire you." Not me, the company per se. Um, and then I was just listening a little bit in the background. I also had to stop listening for a minute to help my daughter. She's off to college next week, so we're trying to wrap some stuff up. But one of the things I heard about being paid as a speaker, and giving your services away. I definitely agree with that. I can't personally say that I've been paid as a speaker, but I will say that companies like ESRI and the National Alliance for Public Safety, GIS, which is an organization I've been involved with for many years. I've never been, like I said, I've never been paid as a speaker, but these organizations, particularly ESRI, they wouldn't pay me, but they would pay for, my flights out to the user conference, the Fed UC, stuff like that, accommodations and all that to have me speak at their conferences. So it's just kind of two things I've been, that my input and some of the stuff I've been listening to in the background.
And,
So hope it helps.
and Stephen, that is getting paid. Getting, if it's a conference that you really want to go to and they're flying you there, and there is a monetary value for that. That's not saying like, well, if you can find your way here, Stephen, would sure like to hear you talk. So don't diminish that is getting paid.
Good point. Good point.
And I really quick, how's your Python coming along?
It's been a little slow. I've been so busy with work, but it's getting there. And the new thing I've decided I needed to learn after the after the past user conference is ArcGIS Arcade. So that's the new thing I'm diving into.
Yep, sounds good.
Hey,
Come
Steven.
on.
Thanks for letting me speak.
Hey, Stephen, this is Frank Romo. I work here at the City of Detroit in our public safety department. And I would just like to say, thank you for leading the way, because I see this all the time where we have some older chiefs who are somewhat reluctant to engage with the GIS, but then there are folks like you who are really pushing it forward. And, it really helps a ton to have, the brass and the executive folks pushing for these solutions, because you're right. You come talk about servers, you come talk about all these things, folks eyes gloss over and they don't want to put up the money for it, and we run into that a lot here. And just to give feedback from our perspective, uh, it resonates with me 100% with what you said with some of the younger folks coming up and rising through the ranks. What I've seen helping us in our advancement of GIS. For instance, right now we just launched a really basic, Survey 123 kind of collector app piece to do some inspections on night assemblies because of COVID, because of et cetera. Fire Marshal's division is out there reporting violations and doing things like that. And what I've found to be helpful is finding some of those folks on the ground, right? The guys who are out there doing the night inspections, doing the building inspections. They get frustrated sometimes because they're like, we do all this work, but we don't know where the data goes. We don't know what happens to our inspection data after. It just goes into the void. And I think what I've tried to do is meet them where they are and say, hey, let's try to figure out how we can do this really low level, really simple, right? Because we need to keep it simple for our users who are new to the software. Some of our firefighters who have never touched the software before, but have their mobile device, maybe do reports on their mobile device, so they're used to some of that mobile work, integrating some of that ArcGIS online piece. And now we have like over 1,300 records that have been surveyed in our survey app. And when they're violation, they turn red. When they're completed, they turn green. And something as simple as that, one, it helps our user base, like the inspectors, feel like their data is not just going into the void anymore. But then I spoke with our marshal the other day, and he was like, wow, this is amazing. He's like, I didn't know we can do this kind of stuff. And then right then and there, we got him on the hook. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go examine the senior facilities and let's go look at the high rises now. And trying to be able to build that data infrastructure. So what I find is helpful for the buy-in is to talk about it in an infrastructure standpoint, from infrastructure standpoint, to recognize that, hey, because everybody kind of knows our data is kind of bad, the addresses are kind of wonky, and so how do we kind of articulated to them that this is a infrastructure piece, just like any other infrastructure, like you said, like the vehicles, like the apparatuses. This is an infrastructure piece, and without that infrastructure piece, we can't do our job to the full capacity. So I just really liked what you said and wanted to lend our perspective from here at the City of Detroit.
And
Yeah,
really
no,
quickly.
and that's a great
Oops.
point. And I always like to give the example. Before I retired from the city, mobile was really starting to take off, and we were starting to put some stuff together and trying some stuff with like the collector app. And we did a big event for the Super Bowl when it was held here in New York and New Jersey. And we had put all this stuff together for our web maps and everything else. Then the question came up is, well, how do we get it down to the field personnel? And we did that, through ArcGIS Online. Unfortunately, we were under such a time crunch, we really couldn't get to like the collecting portion of it. But it was so well received. We wound up, trying mobile data collection with our incident management team, which I was the GIS team leader for the incident management team. And my point is, we had demoed how you could use the collector app to collect information. And I'll never forget, there was this lieutenant, his name is Tom. I won't give out his last name, but, right off the bat, he was like, Steve, I'm not gonna be able to do this. You know me, I'm a pen and paper type of guy. I could write stuff on a paper and have you input it, which kind of defeated the whole point. Um, and the point is that within 20 minutes of us holding a classroom session, showing the team how easy it is to collect data on an iPad using the collector app, these guys were off and running. And we had a 4-hour training session at the academy. Like I said, they were off and running, collecting all sorts of data. And then a few weeks after that, we had a big drill on Governor's Island. For those that don't know, it's a small island just off the south tip of Manhattan. It was a 4-day drill. The scenario was a plane crash. We had our incident management team, our search and rescue teams, NYPD. We had the New York State search and rescue team. We had the U.S. Coast Guard there. And again, we gave quick 15-minute training sessions. Here's an iPad. Go out and collect this data. And it was so well received. And it worked out so well. Then I retired a couple months after, but a good friend of mine took over the unit upon my retirement, and they're still doing it. So
That's great, Stephen. I mean, that's great. I love hearing from you. I'm glad you popped back in the room. I did have one thing that I did want to say because I didn't say it before. There's a couple folks in the audience here that are brand new that I slowly and like painfully helped figure out how to get them into the room because I really didn't know that side of it. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but if either of you or some of you would like to speak in the last few, 10 minutes or so that we have, or have a comment, you to raise your hand, you hit that little hand that's touching a piece of paper at the bottom of the screen. And if you hit it, you'll get invited up to say something. Um, and so welcome. And I'm Bonnie and I'm done talking.
Yeah, thanks, Bonnie. And you know what? I don't mind putting people on the spot, so I invited Jordan to come on up. He worked at a big city that was growing, and now he works at a smaller city that's growing any faster. So, Jordan, what do you have to share with us about getting buy-in for your new GIS department?
Oh man. So the buy-in for my new GIS department has been pretty intense, and I cannot take credit for a single drop of it. We're getting an enterprise agreement with Esri. We're getting an enterprise agreement with CityWorks. We're getting a new full-time employee. I mean, if there was ever a gold banner year for a GIS department, this might be it. But everyone had their mind set before I was even hired that they wanted to go all in on GIS, and obviously it would totally suck if I just left it there. So the reason why that happened is that the town had hired a bunch of people from the surrounding municipalities that had mature GIS departments of varying levels, right? And so these employees get here, and then we're back to everyone doing pen and paper stuff, and they're not able to look up their things. So although they might not have been doing the next level stuff with GIS at their previous municipalities, they all understood to a degree that you can use the GIS to make your job easier, right? And so there's there's a level of expectation of what GIS should be, And for me, in this particular situation, it's going to be my job to really surpass that and to show them like things can be so much better. I think it's harder to be in one of those other municipalities and kind of rattle the cage and say, hey guys, we could be doing so much better, because everyone's happy with the workflows that they're having. So in this particular situation, going from zero to something, I think is a lot easier than trying to do some culture change to convince people to invest more heavily into a system that they're not utilizing to its fullest. I'm Jordan, and I think I'm done talking.
Jordan, thank you. Fantastic. Uh, Ravi, I think you were next up. Do you have anything to share with us?
Yeah, hello everyone. Am I audible? Okay. So, okay, like I'm talking about myself, I'm Ravi. I'm basically from an architectural background. I am an urban planner converted into geospatial researcher. So currently, I'm working with like state level urban development authority, like on central government projects in India. I'm from India, and yeah, currently I'm involved in three different sectors like corporate, academia, as well as research. So, okay, in the corporate sector, I'm basically working on the implementation part of like urban development projects. Apart from that, I have currently working on my own startup called City AI, where I'm just trying to work on core artificial intelligence technology for urban development, urban monitoring, management kind of aspects. I guess, like as you all aware, like okay, I don't know about a deep global perspective, but in Indian context, we are not completely adopting this artificial intelligence technology, like such as advanced geospatial technology for urban development or related terms. But yeah, few research kind of activities are going on through some agencies like Indian Space Research Organization and other organizations. So in my own startup, I'm just trying to work on this technologies using GIS, remote sensing data, and how to make these approaches on ground, like practical approach. So yeah.
Well,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So
thanks, Robbie. I really appreciate that background in terms of the work that you're doing and how you're blending together a bunch of different things. I want to just be cognizant because we were getting to the close to the top of the hour, and Nicholas is someone who's new in the room, and I know had sort of reached out, and so would like Nicholas was wondering if you would just be willing to introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be in this space. I mean, this has been a very rich conversation. I've followed Bruce and listened to him speak and have seen the work that Bonnie has done and him as well. So this is a very powerful room. I'm a geospatial 2.0 developer, and I wish I could just take your minds and then create one gigantic system so I could access your bright thoughts, because the timing of this conversation could not have been better for me. I've been paying forwards for a couple of years now. I would invite you to look at my LinkedIn profile so that you can just see the public facing type of work that I create. And yeah, I'm reticent to speak more because I'm just trying to absorb all of the information, that Stephen has put forwards. Um, but this is a very interesting time for us because we're in a web GIS world where data is being streamed to us at incredible speeds, and all of it is accessible, deployable, and very usable. I've worked with GeoSpark Analytic, I've done work with BTN, I'm doing some work with Spire, and So anyhow, thank
Uh,
you very much for
Nicholas,
creating
are you
this
able to
space.
say like who you work for?
I'm an entrepreneur. I work for myself. My
Okay.
company is ouutu.com. I was one of the first people to detect COVID. Not that I think that COVID is something that I want to leverage, but my tools, my original dashboards, I was in maybe 600 cases when I posted them. So you can look at my YouTube channel, for example. Um, but thank you very much for creating this very powerful group and the information that has been given to me. I'm actually taking this as a gift. So thank you.
Well, thanks for that. And I'm sure that there's, a lot of ways that you have to leverage buy-in in terms of being an entrepreneur, which, is something that, we've sort of talked a little bit about in terms of what I was talking about, Bonnie, and then Hiabu. So um, anyway, I think we're sort of getting to the top of the hour. So just want to remind you that if you go to www.geospatialconnections with an s.com later this afternoon, assuming everything works, we'll have a video that's going to be posted up there of this conversation. And that's a place where if you think there was useful stuff that came out of it, would love if you shared the conversation with people within your network and invite more people to come at this time. But other moderators or anyone else, any last things that you want to say? Something I'm taking out of today is what Frank shared, that his professor shared about just, just that idea of building credibility. I can't quite remember the quote exactly, but it was that idea. What was it, Frank?
Uh, Focus on perfecting your craft before being asked to be paid for your craft.
Yes, I think that there's a lot of wisdom in there. So thanks for that, Frank.
I'm going to drop some Thoreau on you as we wrap up the room. Never look back unless you're planning to go that way. That's like my favorite. But
That's
thank
fine.
you, everyone. And please check out that Loud Numbers podcast because I maybe I'm the only one that thinks it's really
No,
cool.
I'm so excited. So Reveal, which is a podcast that I love, does sometimes uses audio and things for that. So I'm subscribing. It's called Loud Numbers.
Yes, it's so good. And because I'm listening to it when I'm running, the little beats keep me going too, because they play the whole thing at the end so you could hear it. So it's really, really cool.
I'm looking forward to that, Bonnie. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I just this is Bruce, and before we finish today, I listened really carefully as well. And one of the things I'm hearing, in spite of what I was saying, is I'm hearing the same thing over and over. Whether you're selling a product or service, whether you're selling within an organization, like Tim has to do to make sure that his services are well used and optimized. There are two things that these have in common. One is having a better understanding of what the challenges are, really a deep understanding of what people struggle with, because in that understanding, the solution can be found, right? And then the second piece is find a way to demonstrate the value that you bring. Find a way to help people understand what the real value is. Like when Stephen gave the example of training people on Governor's Island, 15-minute training, and then they can go do it. The training wasn't the value was in what they could do once they had the training. And so I really feel like that's another takeaway, is just really find a way to demonstrate the value. But thanks, it's a great conversation. I really enjoyed being here with everybody. So this is Bruce, and I'm done speaking.
I just wanted to kind of close with a one-liner like everyone else is get out of your office, get out of your comfort zone, get out of your space. Your job depends on it. That's my way of being cinematic, Bonnie. I love that. But I do think that there's value in just showing people what you're capable of doing because they don't know what you can do. So get out there and show off.
Up next week, we're talking about data literacy too. Um, so make sure you join us for that. And if you follow me at all on LinkedIn, you know that I prefer the term being dateable over being literate. So we'll talk about that a little bit too next week. So look forward to seeing everybody then.
Sounds great. Well, I'm just thankful for this time where we get to come together every Wednesday. And so we will see you all talking about being dateable or data literacy, whatever you want. We'd love it if you shared this time with people in your network and invited them to come along. But anyway, hope everyone has a really great week.
Thanks, everyone. See you.
Have a great
Bye.
day.
Thank you.